Montana, February, 40 below zero. This is where the Marine Corps sends people it wants to forget. The supply truck hit another pothole, and Staff Sergeant Nora Kael felt her head bounce against the cold metal wall. No padding, no heat, just diesel fumes and the sound of chains grinding against ice. She'd been riding in the back for 6 hours, wedged between crates of freeze-dried rations and ammunition boxes that nobody would ever fire. The driver hadn't spoken to her once, hadn't even looked at her when she climbed in at the depot in Kalispell. He'd just pointed to the cargo bed with his thumb and walked away. That was 3 days ago. Before that, it was a C-130 from Quantico. Before that, a hearing room with fluorescent lights that made everyone look like corpses. Before that, Baghdad. Before that, a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. 9 months ago, Nora Kael had 47 confirmed kills and a silver star. Today, she had a duffel bag, a typewriter, and orders not to touch a rifle. The truck lurched to a stop. The engine died. Silence rushed in like a living thing. Nora waited. Nobody came to open the gate. She pushed it open herself, the metal screaming in the cold. Her boots hit snow, and the wind hit her face like a fist. Negative 28 degrees, maybe colder, the kind of cold that turned spit to ice before it hit the ground. Fort Wraith sat in a valley between 2 mountains that looked like broken teeth. Grey buildings, grey sky, grey snow, a wire fence that sagged in places. Guard towers that probably hadn't been manned in months. The American flag snapped in the wind, the fabric so stiff with ice it sounded like gunfire. Nora pulled her duffel from the truck bed. The driver was already walking away toward what looked like a motor pool. No goodbye, no welcome. She stood alone in the wind, watching her breath freeze in the air, and thought about the last time someone had looked her in the eye and said her rank without contempt. It had been Captain Jack Brennan, 8 months ago, right before he vanished. The headquarters building was 2 stories of cinder block and frost. The door didn't want to open. Nora had to put her shoulder into it. Inside, the warmth felt like an insult after the cold outside. A sergeant sat behind a metal desk, his nameplate reading Morrison. He didn't look up from his magazine. Kael, Staff Sergeant, arriving as ordered. Morrison turned a page. Still didn't look up. Colonel's office, 2nd floor. He's expecting you. Don't bother knocking. He doesn't like it. Nora climbed stairs that smelled like old coffee and boot leather. The 2nd floor hallway was lined with photos. Marines in dress blues, Marines in combat gear, Marines who looked like they'd been dead for 20 years. At the end of the hall, a door stood open. Inside, a man sat at a desk covered in papers and maps. He had grey hair cut high and tight. A scar ran from his left ear to his chin, thick and white like a rope. Texas accent before he even opened his mouth. You could tell by the way he held himself. Colonel Wade Garrett looked up. His eyes were the color of winter ice. He studied Nora for 10 seconds without speaking. Then he leaned back in his chair and laced his fingers behind his head. They sent me your file, Kael. His voice was gravel over glass. Says you're reckless. Says you can't follow orders. Says you shot a high-value target against direct command and killed a CIA asset. Nora stood at attention, said nothing. Garrett's eyes never left hers. Says you saved 30 hostages doing it. Says the vest bomb was real. Says CIA's asset was going to let those people die to maintain his cover. Silence. Wind rattled the windows. Says you did the right thing, and they destroyed you for it anyway. Garrett dropped his hands and pushed a key across the desk. Barracks 4. Get settled. Tomorrow you work supply depot. Inventory, requisition forms, all the shit nobody wants to do. And Kael? Sir? Welcome to the ass end of nowhere. Nora took the key, turned to leave. Garrett's voice stopped her at the door. One more thing. You see a rifle rack in the corner? She looked. 4 M4s locked in place. Dust on the barrels. You stay away from those. You're not cleared for weapons. Not anymore. You understand? Yes, sir. Good. Dismissed. Nora walked out, closed the door behind her, stood in the hallway for 30 seconds, staring at nothing, feeling something crack inside her chest that she thought had already broken. The barracks were worse than she'd expected. Concrete walls, metal bunks, a space heater that barely worked. 3 other women shared the room. They looked at her when she entered, then looked away. No introductions, no questions, just the universal language of people who'd been sent somewhere to disappear. She unpacked in silence. Uniforms, boots, a photo she kept face down in her duffel because looking at it hurt too much. Jack Brennan in that photo, grinning like an idiot after they'd finished sniper training together. That was 8 years ago. Before the world went to hell. Before good shots became bad judgment. Before saving lives became a court-martial offense. That night, Nora didn't sleep. She lay on the bunk and listened to the wind and thought about the scope picture she'd had 9 months ago. The target, the vest, the trigger pull, how easy it had been, how right it had felt. 1 shot, 1 death, 30 lives saved. And then the debrief. The CIA officer with the cold eyes who'd told her the target wasn't a terrorist. Was one of theirs, deep cover, needed alive. And Nora had killed him. Compromised an operation, destroyed months of intelligence gathering, become a problem that needed solving. The Corps couldn't court-martial her. The optics were bad. Sniper saves hostages, gets punished. No, so they'd done something smarter. Reassigned her, reclassified her, took away her rifle and gave her a desk. Sent her somewhere nobody would ever hear from her again. The wind screamed outside. Nora closed her eyes and saw the scope picture again. Saw the target drop. Saw the hostages run. Felt nothing but the same cold certainty she'd felt pulling the trigger. She'd do it again. Every time, without hesitation. Day 3 at Fort Wraith, Nora learned what forgotten really meant. The base wasn't a training facility, wasn't even a real garrison. It was a warehouse for problem soldiers, the men and women nobody wanted but couldn't discharge. The ones who'd crossed lines or broken rules or simply known too much. 63 people total. All of them carrying the same dead look in their eyes, Hunanda eyes. She met 3 who mattered. The first was Lieutenant Iris Tang, 26 years old, cyber warfare specialist with an MIT degree and a security clearance that had been revoked when she'd hacked into personnel files to expose a colonel running a procurement fraud scheme. Tang had black hair cut short and wire-rimmed glasses that made her look like a grad student. She found Nora in the mess hall and sat down without asking. "You're the Baghdad sniper." Not a question, a statement. Nora kept eating. "Everyone knows. We looked you up. 47 confirmed kills, Silver Star. Then you shot a CIA asset, and boom, you're here with the rest of us." Tang leaned forward. "Welcome to the graveyard. Once you're in, you don't get out. Best advice, stop hoping. It makes the time go faster." The second was Gunnery Sergeant Leon Hayes, 45 years old, former drill instructor with arms like steel cables and a voice that could strip paint. Hayes had been sent to Fort Wraith after he'd hospitalized a private who'd sexually assaulted a female recruit. The private's father was a congressman. The case was political. Hayes took the fall. He found Nora in the supply depot on her second day, watched her inventory ammunition for 20 minutes, then spoke. "You know how to actually use those?" Nora looked up from her clipboard. "Used to." "Yeah, we all used to. That's why we're here. We actually gave a damn." Hayes picked up a box of 5.56 rounds, tested the weight, set it back down. "Morrison told me you let him talk to you like shit yesterday. Said you just stood there and took it. He's drunk. Drunks talk. Drunks need to learn respect. You want me to teach him?" "No." Hayes studied her, nodded slowly. "All right, but when you change your mind, let me know. I enjoy teaching." The third was Corporal Danny Ortega, 23 years old, former combat medic with steady hands and eyes that looked 60. Ortega had been sent to Fort Wraith for injecting morphine into a wounded Marine without authorization. The Marine had been gut-shot, screaming, dying. Ortega had given him relief. The Corps had given Ortega a reprimand and a transfer. He never complained, never explained, just did his job and stayed quiet. Nora found him in the medical bay, reorganizing supplies that didn't need reorganizing. He worked with the kind of precision that came from muscle memory, from doing something so many times it became meditation. "You're Kael." "Yeah." "Heard you saved 30 people." "Yeah." "Then you belong here. Place like this, that's the price. Do the right thing, lose everything." Ortega closed a supply cabinet and turned to face her. "But you know what? At least we can sleep at night. That's worth something." On day 5, Morrison made his move. Nora was in the mess hall, eating alone, when he sat down across from her. He smelled like whiskey. His eyes were red. He leaned forward and put his elbows on the table like he owned the place. "So you're the hero, huh? The big bad sniper who saved all those people?" Nora kept eating, didn't look up. "I read your file. Says you disobeyed direct orders. Says you killed a friendly. Says you're lucky they didn't put you in Leavenworth." He laughed. Other soldiers at nearby tables stopped talking, watching, waiting. "You want to know what I think? I think you're just another screw-up who got caught. I think you're here because you're broken, and I think you should remember your place." Nora set down her fork, looked up slowly, met his eyes, didn't blink. Her voice was quiet, cold, precise. "You're drunk, go sleep it off." Morrison's face went red. He started to stand. Then he looked at her eyes again, and something in him recognized something in her. The thing that separates people who've killed from people who've only talked about it. He sat back down, looked away, picked up his tray, and left without another word. Hayes was watching from across the room. He raised his coffee cup in a small salute. Nora nodded back. Respect. Earned without a single punch thrown, the old-fashioned way. That night, sleep finally came, but with it came the dreams. Baghdad again, the scope picture, the target, the vest. But this time when she pulled the trigger, the bullet passed through the target and hit one of the hostages. A child. The child's face was Jack Brennan's face, and he was screaming her name. Nora woke at 0300, covered in sweat, heart hammering. She got dressed and walked outside into the cold because the barracks felt like a coffin. The sky was clear. Stars everywhere. No moon, just darkness and cold and silence. She walked the perimeter, boots crunching on snow, breath freezing. And that's when she heard it. Voices coming from the communications room. She shouldn't have been able to hear anything. The comm room was supposed to be soundproof, but someone had left a window cracked. She moved closer, stayed in shadow. Inside, Iris Tang sat at a console, wearing headphones, fingers flying across a keyboard. Colonel Garrett stood behind her, arms crossed. They were staring at a screen showing radio frequency data. "There. That burst transmission, can you decrypt it?" "Working on it, sir. Military encryption, but not ours. Russian adjacent, probably mercenary grade." Silence, keys clicking, then Tang's voice again, tight with tension. "Sir, I've got a partial decode. It's... Oh God. What is it, Lieutenant?" 6 remaining. Extraction window closing, time critical. Garrett's hand slammed down on the desk. The sound made Nora flinch in the darkness outside. "How old is this transmission?" 12 hours, sir. It's been repeating every 4 hours on a loop. Last broadcast was 90 minutes ago." Garrett was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward a wall safe, spun the combination, pulled out a red folder. Even from outside, Nora could see the classification markings. Eyes only. Top secret. Compartmentalized. "Lieutenant Tang, what I'm about to show you is beyond your clearance. If you repeat any of this to anyone, you'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Garrett opened the folder, spread photos across the desk. Nora couldn't see details, but she could see Garrett's face. The man looked like someone had punched him in the chest. 18 months ago, a Marine recon team, callsign Phantom 6, went missing in Syria during a covert operation. Official report says all killed in action, but intelligence now confirms 6 survived. They were captured, smuggled across 3 countries. They're being held at a black site 38 miles north of here, across the Canadian border. A facility run by Russian-backed mercenaries. Tang was silent, staring at the photos. "Sir, why are you telling me this?" "Because that transmission you just intercepted, that's from them, or from someone who knows where they are. And we're running out of time." Garrett picked up one photo, held it, his hand was shaking. "These men are my responsibility, Lieutenant. I was their CO. When they went missing, I requested a rescue mission. JSOC denied it. Politically sensitive, State Department said it would cause an international incident. CIA classified the whole operation to bury it. For 18 months, I've been trying to find them, and now I have, but nobody will authorize an extraction." He set the photo down, looked at Tang. "So I'm going to do it myself. Tonight, alone, and I need you to keep this window open and monitor that frequency. If I don't make it back, you report everything to JSOC. You make sure someone knows the truth. Can you do that?" Tang stood up. squared her shoulders. Sir, you can't go alone, you'll die. Probably. Then you need a team. I can't order anyone to commit career suicide with me. You're not ordering, sir. I'm volunteering. The window where Nora was standing was directly behind Garrett. She couldn't see his face, but she saw his shoulders drop. Saw him take a breath. Lieutenant, I appreciate the offer, but this is my burden to carry, not yours. With respect, sir, screw that. The voice came from behind Nora. She spun. Leon Hayes stepped out of the shadows, followed by Danny Ortega, both fully dressed, both looking like they'd been listening for a while. Hayes walked past Nora, opened the comm room door, and stepped inside like he owned the place. Colonel, we heard everything. You need a team, you've got one. Me, Ortega, Tang, and Kael. Garrett spun around. Sergeant Hayes, this is a private conversation in a secured facility, and you're all goddamn trespassing. Yes, sir. We're also all volunteers. You need shooters, you've got shooters. You need a medic, you've got Ortega. You need comms and tech, you've got Tang. And you need someone who can make an impossible shot from 1,000 meters in the dark. You've got Kael. Nora felt all eyes turn to her. She was still standing outside. Through the window, through the cold, she met Garrett's eyes, the man who'd taken away her rifle, the man who'd sent her to inventory duty, the man who was about to throw his career away to save 6 people nobody else cared about. She thought about Jack Brennan, about the last thing he'd said to her before he vanished, before his retirement that nobody believed was real, before he'd disappeared into whatever black hole the Corps had thrown him into. Take care of yourself, Nora. And if you ever get the chance to save someone who matters, don't hesitate. Just pull the trigger. Nora opened the door and stepped inside. Her voice was steady, clear. Sir, permission to speak freely. Garrett's jaw was tight, but he nodded. You can't do this alone. You'll die. But if you take us, we might have a chance. And sir, I know one of those men, Captain Jack Brennan. He trained me. He protected me when the Corps tried to destroy me. He testified at my hearing, even though it ended his career. And then he vanished, and nobody would tell me where. She took a step forward. If he's one of those 6, I'm going. Orders or no orders, court-martial or no court-martial, I'm going. So you can either let me help or you can try to stop me. Your choice, sir. Silence, long and heavy. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, nobody moved. Garrett closed the folder, looked at each of them in turn. Hayes, Ortega, Tang, Nora. His expression was unreadable. Then he opened the folder again and spread out 6 photographs. 6 faces. 6 men who looked more like ghosts than human beings. The third photo from the left was Captain Jack Brennan. Thinner, bearded, scarred, but alive. Nora felt something crack in her chest. The same thing that had broken when Garrett had told her to stay away from the rifles. But this time it cracked open instead of closed. This time light came through. Jack, she whispered. Garrett watched her. Then he looked at the others. If we do this, we do it right. Full operational security. We leave at 0400. That gives us 6 hours to plan, gear up, and say whatever prayers you believe in. We cross into Canada, hit the target, extract the prisoners, and get back before anyone notices we're gone. If it goes wrong, I take full responsibility. You'll report that I ordered you under duress, you'll get reprimands, but you'll survive. I'll take the court-martial. Are we clear? Everyone nodded. Good. Ortega, get the medical supplies we'll need. Tang, pull up satellite imagery of the target area and map the best routes. Hayes, check weapons and ammo. Kael, you're with me. We need to talk. The others dispersed. Nora followed Garrett to his office. He closed the door, pulled down the blinds, turned to face her. Brennan never retired. He went back to Syria looking for intel on Phantom 6. One of those men is his younger brother. He got captured 8 months ago trying to get them out. CIA buried the whole thing because it was an unauthorized operation. Garrett sat down. Suddenly looked older. Tired. I recruited Brennan for that mission. It was my idea, my responsibility. And now he's in a cell somewhere being tortured because of me. Sir, it's not your fault, isn't it? I sent him. I gave him the intel. I told him it was worth the risk. Garrett looked up at her. Your file says you pulled the trigger in Baghdad because you knew waiting would get people killed, that you trusted your judgment over your orders because your judgment was right. Is that accurate? Yes, sir. Good, because tonight you're going to have to do it again. And this time, nobody's going to punish you for it. This time, we're all going to break every rule together. And if we survive, maybe we save 6 men who deserve to come home. And if we don't, at least we die trying." He stood up, held out his hand. "Thank you for volunteering, Sergeant Kael." Nora shook his hand. His grip was iron. "Thank you for letting me, sir." The next 4 hours passed in a blur. Gear check, route planning, satellite imagery showing a compound hidden in a mountain valley. 30 to 40 hostiles estimated. Thermal sensors, guard towers, a single access road. No air support, no backup, no margin for error. Hayes assembled weapons. M4A1 carbines, M110A1 sniper rifle for Nora, sidearms, flashbangs, breaching charges, enough ammunition to start a small war. Ortega packed medical supplies, trauma kits, morphine, pressure bandages, everything you'd need to keep someone alive long enough to get them home. Tang hacked into satellite feeds and mapped approach routes. She found a drainage tunnel that led under the compound, not on any official map, probably built during the Cold War. Long shot, but it was a way in, and Nora cleaned the M110A1, disassembled it, checked every part, reassembled it, loaded magazines, 20 rounds each, 30 magazines, 600 rounds total. Enough to hold off an army, or die trying. At 0330, they assembled in the vehicle bay. 6 people. 1 mission, no guarantee of success. Morrison was there too, sober for once. He approached Garrett with his head down. "Sir, I heard. I want to come." Garrett studied him. "Morrison, you're a drunk and a liability. Why would I take you? Because 2 years ago in Fallujah, you pulled me out of a burning Humvee, saved my life. Let me pay that debt." Silence. Then Hayes spoke up. "Sir, we could use another gun." Garrett looked at Morrison for a long moment, then nodded. "Gear up. But if you're drunk when we roll out, you stay behind. Clear?" "Crystal, sir." 0400, 7 people loaded into 2 vehicles, a truck and a snowmobile carrier. Iris hacked the gate logs so their departure wouldn't be recorded. On paper, they were on a training exercise. In reality, they were committing about 15 different violations of military law. Nora sat in the back of the truck, rifle across her lap, and looked at the others. Hayes checking his weapon for the 10th time, Ortega praying silently in Spanish, Tang chewing her lip and staring at a tablet. Morrison stone sober and stone silent. Garrett in the driver's seat, jaw set, eyes forward. And she thought about Jack Brennan, about the photo in her duffel that she kept face down, about the last time she'd seen him when he'd shaken her hand and told her to take care of herself. "I'm coming, Jack. Hold on a little longer. We're coming." The truck's engine roared to life. The gate opened, and 7 people who'd been sent to Fort Wraith to be forgotten drove out into the Montana darkness, toward a black site prison 38 miles north, toward 6 men who didn't officially exist, toward a mission that would either save them all or destroy them. The snow started falling again as they left the base, heavy and thick. Within minutes, Fort Wraith disappeared behind them. There was only the road, the darkness, the cold, and the absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. 20 minutes into the drive, Hayes spoke from the back. "Colonel, do they know we're coming?" Garrett didn't turn around, kept his eyes on the road. "The prisoners?" "No, we've had no contact. They don't know anyone's looking for them. They probably think they've been abandoned." "And the hostiles?" "They think nobody knows where they are. They think they're untouchable." Hayes checked his rifle again. "Then let's educate them." The truck hit a patch of ice. Garrett corrected smoothly, kept driving. Nora watched the tree line pass by in the darkness. Somewhere out there, beyond the border, beyond the mountains, 6 men were waiting. 6 men who didn't know help was coming. 6 men who'd probably given up hope. But hope was coming anyway. Hope in the form of 7 broken Marines who'd been cast aside and forgotten. 7 people who had nothing left to lose. 7 people who understood one simple truth that the rest of the Corps had forgotten. You don't leave people behind. Not ever. Not for politics. Not for convenience. Not for anything. Semper Fidelis, always faithful. Even when the whole world tells you to walk away, you don't. You never do. You go back. You bring them home. And if you die trying, at least you die with honor. The truck drove on through the snow. Montana gave way to wilderness. Wilderness gave way to mountains. And somewhere ahead, in a valley between two peaks, 6 men waited in darkness for a rescue that had no authorization, no support, and no chance of success. But it was coming anyway, because some lines you don't cross, some brothers you don't abandon, and some missions matter more than rules. This was one of them. The truck's headlights carved tunnels through falling snow. Nora watched the darkness slide past, her rifle resting across her knees, and thought about the mathematics of death. 38 miles to the target, 52 hostiles estimated, 7 rescuers, 6 prisoners. 1 chance. The numbers didn't add up to success. They added up to a massacre. But mathematics had never stopped Marines before, and they weren't about to start now. Garrett drove with both hands on the wheel, his face lit by the dashboard glow. In the mirror, Nora could see his eyes, flat, focused. The eyes of a man who'd already accepted that he might not come back. Next to him, Hayes cleaned his rifle for the 11th time. Behind them, Ortega had his eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. Tang stared at her tablet, fingers scrolling through satellite imagery. Morrison sat perfectly still, stone sober, staring at nothing. The snow was getting heavier. The road was disappearing under white. Garrett downshifted, the engine growling, and kept pushing north. Toward the border, toward the mountains, toward 6 men who didn't know salvation was coming. 20 miles out, they pulled off the main road onto a logging track that hadn't been used in years. Trees pressed in on both sides, branches scraping the truck's roof like skeletal fingers. The headlights caught eyes in the darkness. Deer, wolves, things that watched and waited and understood that death was moving through their territory tonight. Garrett stopped the truck in a clearing, killed the engine. The silence was immediate and absolute. Outside, the temperature had dropped to -32, the kind of cold that could kill in minutes if you weren't prepared. The kind of cold that made breath freeze in lungs and turned fingers to wood. They climbed out, boots crunching on snow, breath steaming, 7 shapes in the darkness, pulling gear from the truck bed. Rifles, ammunition, medical supplies. Everything they'd need to assault a fortified position and extract 6 prisoners from the most dangerous 38 miles in North America. Garrett spread a map on the truck's hood, used a red lens flashlight so the glow wouldn't carry. Everyone gathered close. "We're here," he said, tapping the map. "Target is here, 12 miles as the crow flies, 16 on foot through this terrain. We've got 4 hours until dawn. That gives us 2 hours to get into position, 1 hour to execute, 1 hour to exfil. Tight timeline, no margin for error." Tang leaned in, her glasses catching the red light. Satellite shows the facility in a valley between 2 ridges. North Ridge is higher, better overwatch position. East Ridge has the drainage tunnel entrance. South approach is open ground, suicide. West is cliff face, impassable. Garrett nodded. "We split into 2 teams. Kael takes the North Ridge, sets up overwatch. She's our guardian angel. Everything that moves in that compound, she sees it first. Rest of us approach from the east, use the tunnel to get inside. Tang monitors comms and thermals, calls out targets. Hayes and Morrison provide security. Ortega stays with the prisoners once we extract them. I go in first." Hayes spoke up, his voice like gravel. "Sir, you shouldn't be first through the door. I'm not asking for volunteers, Sergeant. I'm giving orders." "With respect, sir, that's bullshit. You're the only one who knows where the other assets are. The only one with the CIA contact for exfil. You die, we're all screwed. I go first." Silence. Garrett looked at Hayes for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, you're on point. Morrison, you're second. Ortega third. I'm fourth. Tang monitors from outside. Kael provides overwatch and covers our exfil. Questions?" Nobody spoke. "Good. Check your gear one last time. We move in 5. They worked in silence. Nora checked her rifle scope, adjusting the parallax, testing the focus. The M110A1 was a beautiful weapon, semi-automatic. 20-round magazine, effective range of 800 meters, lethal much further in the right hands. And Nora's hands were the right hands. 47 confirmed kills. About to be more. She loaded magazines, 20 rounds each, 30 magazines, 600 rounds total. Her shoulder rig carried 12 more magazines, her pack had another 12. When this was over, she'd either be out of ammunition or out of targets. Or dead. Those were the only 3 options. Morrison approached her as she was finishing. He looked different, sober. focused, almost like the Marine he'd been before whatever had broken him finally snapped. "Kael, I need to say something." Nora looked up, waited. "I've been drunk for 2 years, ever since Fallujah. Ever since I watched my best friend burn alive in a Humvee while I stood there and couldn't do anything. I came to Fort Wraith thinking I'd drink myself to death, figured nobody would care, nobody would even notice." He paused, looked at the ground. "But you showed up, and Hayes, and all of you, and I realized something. I realized I'm tired of being useless. I realized I want to die for something that matters. So tonight, if it comes down to it, if someone needs to take a bullet, let it be me. I'm done being a coward." Nora studied his face, saw something there she recognized, the look of a man who'd found his line in the sand, the thing worth dying for. "Morrison, we're all coming back. Every single one of us. You hear me?" "Yeah, I hear you." But his eyes said he didn't believe it. 5 minutes later, they were moving. Single file through the forest, Hayes on point, reading the terrain, choosing the path. Morrison second, rifle up, covering sectors. Ortega third, medical pack bouncing on his back. Garrett fourth, moving like a man half his age. Tang fifth, tablet in a weatherproof case, monitoring everything. Nora bringing up the rear, rifle ready, watching their six. The snow muffled everything. Their footsteps, their breathing, the world. It was like moving through a dream, white and silent and endless. Trees rose around them like cathedral pillars. The sky above was black and starless. Somewhere ahead, 6 men waited in cells, not knowing that hope was walking toward them through the Montana wilderness. 2 miles in, Hayes stopped, raised his fist. Everyone froze. He pointed at the ground. Tracks, fresh, human. Boot prints heading east, parallel to their route. Garrett moved up, knelt, examined the tracks, touched the snow with his fingertips, brought them to his nose. "Diesel, dull," he whispered, "and tobacco, Russian cigarettes." He looked at Hayes. "Patrol, 3 men, maybe 4, probably scouts checking the perimeter. They're ahead of us." Hayes nodded, looked at Nora. She understood, moved forward, past the others, rifle up, followed the tracks through the trees, silent as death. The others waited. 60 seconds, 90, 2 minutes. Then they heard it. 4 soft pops, suppressed fire. Then Nora's voice over the radio, barely a whisper. 4 tangos down, path clear, but we've got a problem." They found her standing over 4 bodies, men in winter camouflage, Russian kit, AK-74s, radios, and something else. One of them had been carrying a sat phone. The screen was cracked but still glowing. Recent call log. The last call had been made 8 minutes ago. Garrett picked up the phone, scrolled through the call history. His face went hard. "They reported in. Someone knows we're coming." Tang checked her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. "Sir, I'm monitoring all frequencies. No alarm, no increased chatter. If they know, they're not reacting. Or they're waiting, setting a trap." Hayes spat into the snow. "So what do we do? Turn back?" Garrett looked at each of them, saw the same answer in every face. "We keep moving, but we assume they know. We assume every step from here is a step into an ambush. Stay sharp, stay ready, and remember, 6 men are counting on us. We don't get to quit." They left the bodies where they lay and kept moving. The forest grew denser, the terrain steeper. After another mile, they reached a frozen stream bed and stopped to rest. Ortega passed around water bottles that were already starting to freeze. Everyone drank. Nobody spoke. There was nothing left to say. Nora moved away from the group, found a fallen log, sat down. Her breath came in white clouds. Her fingers were starting to go numb despite the gloves. She thought about Jack Brennan, about the last time they'd been in the field together. A training exercise in Quantico, rain pouring down, targets at 700 meters. Jack had been spotting for her, calling wind, calling distance. She'd put 10 rounds through 10 targets in 12 seconds. Jack had looked at her like she was supernatural. "Best damn shooter I've ever seen," he'd said. "You've got a gift, Nora. Don't ever let them take it away." But they had taken it. They'd taken her rifle and her rank and her future. They'd sent her to a place where skills didn't matter because nothing mattered. And now here she was, getting it all back. One mission, one chance, one opportunity to be what she'd been born to be. A guardian, a protector, a weapon pointed at evil. She'd make it count. Garrett's voice cut through her thoughts. Kael, you're up. North Ridge is 2 clicks that way. You've got 90 minutes to get into position. Once you're set, radio check every 15 minutes. We'll move to the tunnel entrance and wait for your signal. When you see the prisoners moving, you open fire. Clear the towers first, then vehicles, then any group larger than 3. We'll handle the rest. Nora stood, slung her rifle, looked at the ridge rising through the darkness ahead. Roger that, sir. 90 minutes. She started walking. Alone now, the way snipers always were, separate from the pack, separate from the mission, connected only by radio and purpose. She moved through the forest like a ghost, placing each foot carefully, avoiding branches, avoiding noise. The ridge grew closer, steeper. She started climbing. The terrain was brutal, ice-covered rocks, hidden gaps, tree roots that grabbed like hands. She climbed for 40 minutes straight, lungs burning, legs screaming, reached a ledge and pulled herself up. Kept climbing. The cold was savage now, -35 at least. Her face felt like frozen meat, but she kept moving because Jack was down there somewhere. Jack and 5 others, 6 men who needed her to be perfect. She reached the crest of the ridge and went prone, crawled forward until she could see over. And there it was, the compound, 300 meters down the slope, a collection of buildings arranged in a square. Guard towers at each corner, floodlights on poles, razor wire fence, 2 gates, 1 north, 1 south, vehicles parked in a motor pool, smoke rising from chimneys, and heat signatures, lots of them. Nora pulled out her thermal scope and started counting. 1 guard tower, 2 hostiles, 2nd tower, 3 hostiles, 3rd tower, 2, 4th tower, 3, that was 10. Main building, another 12 signatures visible through windows. Barracks building, 20 plus. Motor pool, 6 working on vehicles. Separate building on the east side, heavily fortified. That had to be where the prisoners were kept. She counted again. Then a 3rd time, her stomach dropped. 52 hostiles, not 30, not 40, 52. She keyed her radio. Overwatch in position, I've got eyes on target. Garrett's voice came back. Copy that. What's the count? Sir, we have a problem. I count 52 hostiles. Intel was wrong. They've doubled their garrison. Silence on the other end. 5 seconds. 10. Then Garrett again, his voice flat. Noted. Can you still provide effective overwatch? Nora looked through her scope. Calculated angles. Wind, distance. 52 targets, 600 rounds. She'd have to be selective. Precise, perfect. Affirmative, sir. I'll eliminate tower guards and priority targets. The rest is on you. We will be. Stand by. The radio went silent. Nora settled into position, cleared snow to create a shooting platform, set out her magazines in precise rows where she could grab them without looking, adjusted her scope for the range and conditions, checked her breathing, slow, controlled. The way Jack had taught her. Breath is life, he'd said. Control your breath, control your shot. Control your shot, control the battlefield. She controlled her breath. Down below, the compound was busy. Guards walking patrols, vehicles moving, lights coming on in buildings. It looked like a normal night, but it wasn't normal, because somewhere in the darkness around that compound, 6 Marines were moving into position, and in 90 minutes, all hell was going to break loose. Time passed slowly. Nora counted heartbeats, counted breaths, watched guards change positions, memorized their patterns. North Tower guards changed every hour, East Tower every 90 minutes, South and West every 2 hours. The main building had a guard posted at the door who smoked constantly. The barracks had no external guard but regular foot traffic. The prison building had 2 guards outside, plus at least 4 inside based on thermal signatures. 15 minutes before dawn, Garrett's voice came through the radio. All teams in position. Kael, status. Ready, sir. I have firing solutions on all tower guards. Vehicles are accessible. Prison building is visible but heavily defended. Copy that. Tang, status. Tunnel entrance is clear. I'm setting up monitoring station. Drone is airborne. I have thermal feeds of the compound interior. Hayes, in position at tunnel exit. Charges set. Ready to breach on your command. Ortega, medical station established. Ready for casualties. Morrison? Silence. Then Morrison's voice, tight. Sir, I need to tell you something. Nora's blood went cold. Something in his tone. Something wrong. What is it, Morrison? Sir, the sabotage. The sugar in the fuel tank. That was me, I did it. Nobody spoke. The silence on the radio was absolute. They paid me, sir, $10,000 for information about our movements, about our position, about the mission. My daughter, she has stage 4 lymphoma. The experimental immunotherapy treatment, it's not covered by TRICARE. $200,000 out of pocket. I was desperate. I told them about the rescue attempt. I told them we were coming. Garrett's voice was ice. Morrison, are you telling me you're a traitor? I was, sir. I was, but I'm not anymore. I'm telling you now because you need to know. They're expecting you, all of you. This is a trap. They've got 52 men down there because I told them you were coming. And I can't live with that. I won't. Morrison, where are you right now? I'm at the tunnel entrance, sir, with Hayes, and I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry. Hayes's voice cut in. Sir, Morrison's here. He's armed, but he's not pointing his weapon at me. He's pointing it at the ground, and he's crying. Garrett was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, but harder too. Morrison, I should have put a bullet in you myself. You betrayed your brothers. You compromised the mission. You put 6 prisoners at risk for money. I know, sir. But you're also telling us now. You're giving us the truth when you could have stayed silent. Why? Because I remembered something, sir. I remembered what you said in Fallujah. When you pulled me from that burning Humvee, you said, it's never too late to do the right thing. Even if you've done 1,000 wrong things, the right thing still matters. So I'm doing it now. I'm telling you, they know you're coming. They're ready. And they have orders to kill all of you and then execute the prisoners. Nora listened through her scope, watching the compound. Nothing had changed down there. Guards still walking patrols, lights still burning. But now she knew. They were waiting, all 52 of them, waiting for 7 Marines to walk into a kill box. Garrett's voice again. Morrison, listen to me very carefully. You betrayed us, but you also gave us the one thing we need most. The truth. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to help us win this fight. You're going to go in first. You're going to draw fire. You're going to give us the opening we need. And when this is over, if we survive, you're going to face a court-martial and probably spend the rest of your life in prison. But you'll face it as a Marine who died trying to make things right. You understand? Yes, sir. Good. Hayes, keep him close. He goes through that tunnel first. If he runs, shoot him. If he fights, shoot him. But if he charges, if he draws fire and gives us the opening we need, then he dies a Marine. Got it? Roger that, sir. Nora's finger moved to the trigger guard. She scanned the compound again. 52 targets, 600 rounds, 7 rescuers, one of them a traitor trying to find redemption. 6 prisoners who didn't know any of this was happening. And one simple mission that had just become impossible. But Marines didn't believe in impossible. They believed in mission accomplishment, in honor, in the idea that doing the right thing mattered more than staying alive. She keyed her radio. Sir, this is Kael. Morrison made his choice. Now we make ours. I've got 600 rounds and 52 targets. When you give the word, I'll clear the towers. I'll clear priority targets. You get to those prisoners. You get them out. I'll make sure nobody stops you. Garrett didn't turn around, kept his eyes on the road. Negative, Kael. If you open fire, you'll draw attention to your position. Then I'll hold position, sir. That's the mission. Get in. Get them. Get out. I'll cover your 6 until my last round. After that, it's up to God. Kael, I'm not ordering you to commit suicide. You're not ordering me to do anything, sir. I'm volunteering, same way I volunteered for this mission. Same way we all did. We came here to save 6 men. We're not leaving without them, period. Silence. Then Tang's voice, quiet but firm. Sir, I'm staying with Kael. She'll need someone to spot, to call targets, to watch her 6. Negative, Tang. You're not trained for combat. I'm trained to help Marines accomplish their mission, sir, so I'm staying. No arguments. Hayes spoke next. Colonel, Morrison and I will breach first. Draw fire. Create chaos. You and Ortega grab the prisoners and move. Kael covers from Overwatch. Tang spots for her. We all do our jobs. We all come home. That's the mission. Garrett was silent for a long time. Nora waited, watched the compound, watched guards moving, watched her breath freeze in the air, waited for the order that would start the killing. Finally, Garrett spoke. His voice was steady, certain. All right, we do it together. Morrison breaches first. Hayes second. They draw fire and create chaos. I go third with Ortega. We secure the prisoners. Kael and Tang provide overwatch and cover our exfil. We have one chance at this. One opportunity. We make it count. Questions? Nobody had questions. Good. Morrison, you ready? Morrison's voice came through, no longer shaking, no longer uncertain, just a Marine accepting his fate. Yes, sir, I'm ready. Then on my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute. Hell came to the compound at 0537 on a frozen February morning in the mountains of Montana. It came in the form of an explosion that tore through the east wall like the hand of God. Morrison had packed 4 times the breaching charge needed. The blast vaporized 30 feet of concrete and killed 6 men instantly. And then Nora started shooting. Her first shot took the North Tower guard in the head. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Second shot took his partner before the man even realized what had happened. Third shot, East Tower, center mass. Fourth shot, same tower, headshot. Fifth shot, South Tower. Sixth shot, South Tower. Seventh shot, West Tower. Eighth shot, West Tower Guard 2. Ninth shot, West Tower Guard 3. 10 seconds. 9 shots, 10 kills. The towers were clear. Below, chaos erupted. Men poured from buildings, some dressed, some not, all armed, all confused. They ran toward the explosion, toward the breach, into the kill zone. Nora kept firing. Steady, methodical, each shot a prayer, each kill a step closer to salvation. Morrison charged through the breach like a berserker, rifle blazing, screaming, drawing fire. Men turned toward him, opened fire. He took 3 rounds in the chest, kept charging, took 2 more, went down on one knee, still firing. A round hit his head, he fell, but he'd done it. He'd drawn them. Every hostile in the compound turned toward the breach, away from the prison building, away from where Garrett and Hayes and Ortega were moving. Nora put a round through a man aiming at Hayes, another through a man throwing a grenade, another through the driver of a vehicle trying to move. The rifle kicked. The scope picture jumped. She compensated, fired again and again and again. Tang was next to her now, calling targets. 3 o'clock, group of 4 behind the vehicle. Nora fired 4 times. 4 men dropped. 9 o'clock, sniper in the window. 1 shot, the window exploded. The sniper fell. 12 o'clock, heavy weapon emplacement. Nora put 3 rounds into the gunner. The heavy weapon went silent. Below, Garrett and Ortega reached the prison building, breached the door, disappeared inside. Hayes was still at the main breach, firing controlled bursts, keeping heads down, but he was being flanked. Men were moving around the sides, trying to surround him. Nora fired, changed magazines, fired, changed magazines. Her world narrowed to the scope picture. Target, breathe. Fire, target, breathe, fire. Muscle memory, training, 47 kills becoming 60, 70, 85. And then she heard it. The sound every sniper fears, the crack of a round passing close. Someone was shooting at her, counter-sniper. She rolled left, a bullet hit where she'd been, rolled right, another bullet. Snow exploded. Tang was on her tablet. I've got him, thermal signature. Roof of main building, 800 meters. Nora found him in her scope. A shape, a shadow, a man with a rifle pointed at her. Their eyes met through glass and distance. 2 professionals, 2 killers. One would die. The universe demanded it. She fired first, missed by inches. He returned fire. The round grazed her shoulder. Pain exploded. She ignored it, compensated for wind, for distance, for the angle, fired again. The shape on the roof jerked, fell, disappeared. Tang's voice, shaking. Target down, but Nora, you're hit. I'm fine, keep spotting. She wasn't fine. Blood was running down her arm. But she kept firing, kept killing, because below, Garrett was emerging from the prison building. 6 men with him, emaciated, bearded, barely able to walk, but alive, and one of them was Jack Brennan. Nora put 3 rounds into a group of hostiles moving to intercept. They went down, put 2 more into a vehicle trying to block the exit. The vehicle caught fire, put another round through a man raising a rocket launcher. The launcher exploded. The man vanished in fire. Hayes was falling back now, wounded, limping, but still firing. Ortega reached him, started dragging him. Garrett and the prisoners were moving toward the breach, toward freedom, toward home. And then the universe betrayed them. A vehicle came around the corner, heavy machine gun mounted, pointing at the prisoners, at Jack, at all of them. The gunner's finger was on the trigger. Nora fired, hit the gunner, but there was another man. He grabbed the gun, swung it toward Garrett. Nora fired again. The rifle clicked empty. Magazine dry. She reached for another. Too slow. The man was aiming, about to fire, about to kill 6 prisoners and 2 Marines with one burst. Morrison appeared from nowhere, bleeding, dying, but still moving. He threw himself at the vehicle, grabbed the gun barrel, pulled it up. The burst went high, into the air, into nothing. The second man shot Morrison, point blank, 3 times, 4. Morrison held on, held the gun up, held it until Garrett reached the breach, until the prisoners were through, until Hayes was through, until everyone was safe. Then he let go, fell, and was still. Nora changed magazines, put a round through the second man's head, through the driver's head, through the engine block. The vehicle died. Tang, call the exfil. Everyone's out, everyone's moving. We need to go. They scrambled down the ridge, sliding, falling, not caring, just moving. Behind them, the compound was burning. Bodies everywhere. 52 men, 14 killed by the team, 38 by Nora. The math was brutal. The math was perfect. Nora and Tang reached the rally point. The others were already there. Garrett, Hayes, Ortega, and 6 ghosts who'd once been Marines, 6 men who looked like they'd been through hell and come out the other side. One of them looked at Nora, recognition in his eyes, disbelief, hope. Nora? It was Jack Brennan, thinner, older, broken, but alive. Hey Jack, she said. Told you I'd watch your 6. He laughed. It sounded like crying. Maybe it was. They loaded into the vehicles, drove hard and fast. The sun was rising now, grey light spreading across the mountains. Behind them, smoke rose from the compound. In the back of the truck, Morrison's body lay wrapped in a tarp. He'd been a traitor, a drunk, a broken man, but in the end, he'd been a Marine. And Marines take care of their own, even the broken ones, especially the broken ones. They crossed back into American territory at 07:15, 3 hours after they'd left Fort Wraith. Garrett was on the radio immediately, calling JSOC, calling his CIA contact, calling everyone who needed to know. 6 Marines were home, 6 men who'd been abandoned were saved, and the people responsible for abandoning them were about to answer for it. In the truck bed, Nora sat next to Jack. He was drinking water, eating an MRE, looking at her like she was a ghost. They told me you were done, he said. Told me you'd been reassigned, buried, forgotten. I was, she said, for 9 months. Then this happened. Then I remembered what you taught me. What did I teach you? That doing the right thing is more important than following orders. That saving lives is more important than protecting careers. That Marines don't leave people behind. Jack nodded slowly, looked at the mountains passing by. Nora, I need to tell you something. That mission in Baghdad, the one where you shot the CIA asset. They lied to you. He wasn't deep cover. He was dirty, selling intelligence, planning to let those hostages die because he'd been paid to. Your shot saved 30 lives and stopped a traitor. But they couldn't admit that without exposing their own corruption, so they made you the villain. Nora felt something cold settle in her chest. How do you know? Because I found the proof. In Syria. That's why I went back. That's why I got captured. I was trying to get evidence to clear your name. And I did. I got it. It's encrypted, hidden, but it exists. And when we get back, when this is over, we're going to use it. We're going to clear your name, and we're going to burn the people who tried to destroy you. He looked at her with eyes that had seen too much death. You saved me today, Nora. Now I'm going to save you. We're even. She wanted to tell him they were never even, that he'd given her everything, that without him she'd be nothing. But her throat was tight and her eyes were burning, and all she could do was nod. The truck drove on, toward Fort Wraith, toward safety, toward whatever came next. Behind them, the sun rose higher, the mountains turned gold, and in the back of a Marine Corps truck, 7 broken people who'd been sent to the end of nowhere drove home as heroes. Because they'd done the impossible. They'd saved 6 lives. They'd proven that honor still mattered, that duty still mattered, That the old ways, the hard ways, the ways that demanded sacrifice and courage and blood, those ways still worked. And in a world that had forgotten what it meant to be a warrior, they'd reminded everyone. They'd drawn a line in the snow and said, this far and no further. Some brothers you don't abandon. Some missions you don't walk away from. Some things are worth dying for. And if you're lucky, if you're good, if you're blessed, sometimes you get to live for them instead. They rolled through the gates of Fort Wraith at 0800, 3 hours after the sun had risen over the Montana mountains. The truck carrying 6 rescued prisoners and 7 exhausted Marines. One of those 7 wrapped in a tarp in the back, having paid the ultimate price for redemption. The guards at the gate stood at attention as they passed. Word had already spread. Nobody knew the details yet, but they knew something impossible had just happened. Colonel Garrett parked the truck in front of headquarters and killed the engine. For a moment, nobody moved. They just sat there, breathing, bleeding, trying to understand that they were still alive. That they'd actually done it. That 6 men who'd been given up for dead were now sitting on American soil, free. Jack Brennan was the first to speak. His voice was rough, broken from months of screaming in a cell, but the words came clear. Wade, we need to get these men to medical, now. Garrett nodded, looked at Ortega. Corporal, get them to the infirmary. Full examination, IV fluids, whatever they need, and Ortega. Nobody talks to them except medical staff. No debriefs, no questions, not yet. They've earned some peace. Ortega helped the 6 prisoners out of the truck. They moved like old men, these warriors who'd survived 18 months of hell. Broken bones that had healed wrong. Scars that would never fade. Eyes that had seen too much darkness. But they were walking, breathing, they were breathing. They were home. Nora climbed out of the truck bed, her shoulder still bleeding from the graze, her body running on nothing but adrenaline and will. Hayes was limping badly, his leg wound worse than he'd admitted. Tang looked like she'd aged 10 years in 6 hours. And Morrison lay silent in the back. A hero's death purchased with a traitor's blood. Garrett gathered them in a tight circle. His voice was low, urgent. Listen to me carefully. In about 5 minutes, this place is going to explode. JSOC knows what we did. CIA knows. State Department knows. We just conducted an unauthorized military operation on foreign soil, killed over 30 foreign nationals, and extracted prisoners from a black site that officially doesn't exist. They can't ignore this. They won't. He looked at each of them. When they come, and they will come, you tell them the truth. All of it. Don't try to protect me. Don't take the fall. I ordered this mission. I planned it. I executed it. You followed orders. That's your story. You stick to it. Hayes shook his head. Sir, with respect, that's bullshit. We volunteered. We all knew what we were doing. Sergeant, that's an order. You followed my orders under duress. You believed refusing would result in disciplinary action. That's the story. That's the only story that keeps you from spending 20 years in Leavenworth. Nora spoke up, her voice steady despite the exhaustion. Colonel, they're going to ask why we had intelligence about the black site. They're going to ask how we knew where to go, and when they do, Jack's evidence about Baghdad comes out. The whole thing unravels. The corruption, the cover-up, everything. Garrett met her eyes, nodded slowly. Then let it unravel. Some truths need to see daylight, even if it burns us all. The sound of helicopters cut through the morning air. 3 Blackhawks coming in fast and low. They landed on the parade ground in a storm of rotor wash and snow. Doors opened. Men in suits climbed out. Behind them, military police in full gear. This wasn't a welcoming committee. This was an arrest team. A man in his 50s, grey suit, grey hair, grey everything, walked straight to Garrett. Federal agent written all over him. He didn't offer his hand. Colonel Wade Garrett. That's right. I'm Special Agent Mitchell, FBI. You and your team are under arrest for violation of the Neutrality Act, unauthorized military action on foreign soil, murder, and about 15 other federal charges I'll read you later. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. Military police moved in, separated the team, cuffed them, professional, efficient, cold. Nora felt the steel close around her wrists and thought about all the times she'd imagined being arrested. None of those imaginings had felt like this. Like vindication, like justice, like the beginning of something instead of the end. They were loaded into separate vehicles, driven to separate holding cells. The FBI wasn't taking chances. No communication, no coordination. They wanted individual stories, hoping for contradictions, for cracks they could exploit. Nora sat alone in a concrete room for 6 hours. No windows, no clock, just her and her thoughts and the fluorescent light that hummed like insects. She thought about Jack, about Morrison, about the 38 confirmed kills she'd made in 90 minutes, about whether any of this had been worth it. Then she thought about the 6 prisoners walking into the infirmary, about Jack Brennan alive and breathing, about Morrison dying as a Marine instead of a drunk, and she knew it had been worth it. Every bullet, every risk, every consequence that was coming. The door opened. Special Agent Mitchell walked in with a laptop and a file folder 3 inches thick. He sat down across from her and spent 30 seconds studying her face, looking for weakness, for fear, for the crack he could pry open. He wasn't going to find it. Staff Sergeant Nora Kael, 47 confirmed kills, Silver Star. Then Baghdad happens and you shoot a CIA asset, get reassigned to Fort Wraith, and 9 months later you're part of an unauthorized military operation that kills 38 foreign nationals on Canadian soil. Hell of a career trajectory. Nora said nothing. Mitchell opened the file. Your CO, Colonel Garrett, he's claiming full responsibility. Says he ordered you to participate under threat of court-martial. Says you and the others had no choice. That true? No. Mitchell's eyebrows went up. No. No, sir. Colonel Garrett gave us a choice. We volunteered. All of us. We knew what we were doing. We knew it was illegal. We did it anyway. Mitchell leaned back, almost smiled. And why would you do that, Sergeant Kael? Why would you throw away your career, risk federal prison to rescue 6 men you didn't even know? I knew one of them, Captain Jack Brennan. He trained me. He protected me. And when the Corps tried to destroy me for doing the right thing in Baghdad, he was the only one who stood up for me. So when I found out he was alive, that he was being held in a black site because our government abandoned him, I didn't need to think about it. I went to get him, even though it was illegal. Sir, sometimes the right thing to do and the legal thing to do aren't the same thing. We're taught as Marines that honor matters, that we don't leave people behind, that duty and loyalty and courage aren't just words, they're promises. So yeah, I broke the law. I'd do it again. And if that means I go to prison, then I go to prison. But those 6 men are home. They're alive. And that's worth any price. Mitchell studied her for a long moment. Then he closed the file. You know what's going to happen now? Media's already got the story. Someone leaked it. Every news channel in America is running footage of 6 Marine POWs who were officially listed as killed in action walking into Fort Wraith's infirmary. State Department is in full panic mode. CIA is scrambling, and you and your team are at the center of the biggest military scandal in 20 years. He stood up. Get comfortable, Sergeant. You're going to be here a while. He left. The door locked, and Nora sat in silence, wondering who had leaked the story. Wondering if it had been Jack or Garrett or someone else entirely. She wouldn't find out until 3 days later that it had been Iris Tang. That before they'd even rolled through the gates, Tang had sent encrypted files to every major news organization in America. Video, audio, documents, everything. The whole operation, the black site, the abandonment of 6 Marines, the unauthorized rescue, all of it. Tang had understood something the others hadn't. That the only way to survive this was to make it too public to bury, to make it a story about heroes instead of criminals, to force the American people to choose. Do we punish the people who saved abandoned Marines, or do we punish the people who abandoned them in the first place? By day 2, the story was everywhere. Cable news ran it 24/7. Talk radio exploded. Social media turned the team into folk heroes. Retired generals went on television demanding answers. Senators gave speeches on the floor about honor and duty. The hashtag #SaveOurOwn trended worldwide. And in a concrete cell in Fort Wraith, Nora Kael slept for the first time in 4 days, knowing that whatever happened next, they'd won the part that mattered. The truth was out, the light was shining, and the people who'd tried to bury 6 Marines were about to face judgment. On day 5, everything changed. Nora was brought to an interrogation room, expecting another session with Mitchell. Instead, she found Jack Brennan sitting at the table. He looked better. Clean, shaved, fed. The hollow ghost quality was fading. He was starting to look like a Marine again. "Jack, what are you doing here?" "Testifying. And so are you. Congress has called emergency hearings. They want answers. They want to know why 6 Marines were left to rot in a black site. They want to know why it took an illegal rescue mission to bring us home. And they want to know the truth about Baghdad." He pushed a laptop across the table. "I got the evidence, Nora. In Syria, before I was captured 8 months ago. It's all here. Encrypted files from the CIA's own servers. Proof that the asset you shot wasn't deep cover. He was dirty, selling intelligence to the highest bidder, planning to let those 30 hostages die because he'd been paid $2 million to make sure the rescue failed." Nora stared at the screen, at files she couldn't quite believe were real. Why didn't they want anyone to know? Because he wasn't just any asset. He was the son of a deputy director. The CIA protected him, covered for him, and when you killed him, when you saved those 30 lives, you exposed their corruption. So they made you the villain. They buried you at Fort Wraith and hoped you'd disappear. Jack's eyes were hard, bright, alive with purpose. "But you didn't disappear. You saved me. You saved 6 Marines. And now we're going to save you. We're going to tell the world what really happened in Baghdad. We're going to clear your name. And we're going to make sure everyone knows that the woman they tried to destroy is the best damn Marine any of us have ever served with." 3 weeks later, Nora Kael walked into a congressional hearing room in Washington, D.C. She wore her dress blues, her ribbons, her rank. She walked past cameras and reporters and protesters holding signs that said hero and traitor in equal measure. She walked past family members of the 6 rescued Marines who stood and applauded as she passed. She walked past everything that could have broken her and took her seat at a witness table next to Colonel Garrett, Lieutenant Tang, and Gunnery Sergeant Hayes. The committee chairman, a senator from Virginia with 30 years of military service behind him, called the room to order. His voice carried the weight of authority and something else: respect. "This hearing has been called to investigate the unauthorized military operation conducted by Colonel Wade Garrett and his team on February 18th of this year. An operation that resulted in the rescue of 6 United States Marines who had been held prisoner for 18 months at a black site facility on foreign soil. An operation that, while illegal under current law, raises serious questions about our government's handling of missing personnel and the chain of command failures that led to 6 Marines being abandoned." He looked directly at Garrett. "Colonel Garrett, you have stated that you take full responsibility for this operation, that you planned it, ordered it, and executed it without authorization. Is that correct?" Garrett stood, his voice filled the room. "Yes, sir. I ordered the mission. I recruited the team. I accept full responsibility for every action taken and every consequence that follows. And can you explain to this committee why you felt it necessary to violate direct orders, cross an international border, and conduct a military operation that could have sparked a diplomatic crisis?" Garrett was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, and every person in that room felt the weight of his words. "Senator, 18 months ago, 6 Marines under my command went missing during a classified operation in Syria. I was told they were killed in action. I was told to accept their deaths and move on. But I didn't believe it. I kept digging. I kept searching. And 3 weeks ago, I received intelligence that they were alive, that they were being held at a black site, that they were being tortured." His voice never wavered. "I requested an official rescue mission. JSOC denied it. Too politically sensitive. I went up the chain of command. Every request denied. I was told that 6 Marines were expendable, that extracting them would cause more problems than it solved, that I should let them die quietly." He paused. "Let that sink in. So I made a choice. I chose my Marines over my career. I chose honor over orders. I chose to bring them home or die trying. And I'd make that same choice again without hesitation." The room erupted, reporters shouting questions, people arguing. The chairman hammered his gavel until silence returned. "Colonel Garrett, this committee understands your motivation, but surely you understand that we cannot have military officers conducting unauthorized operations whenever they disagree with their orders. That way leads to chaos." "Senator, I understand that, and I'm prepared to face court-martial for my actions. But before you sentence me, I ask that you consider one question. What does it say about us as a nation if we abandon our own people? What does it say about our military if we tell soldiers that when they're captured, they're on their own? That politics matter more than people? That careers matter more than courage? He looked at each senator in turn. I broke the law. I violated orders. I conducted an illegal operation. And I brought home 6 Americans who deserved to be brought home 18 months ago. If that's a crime, then I'm guilty. But I'll wear that guilt with more pride than I've ever worn any medal. The room went silent. Then someone started clapping. 1 person, then 2, then 10, then everyone. The committee chairman didn't stop it. He just sat there, watching. As the American people told their government exactly what they thought of men who kept their promises. The hearing continued for 6 more hours. Each member of the team testified. Hayes talked about Morrison's redemption. Tang explained how she'd leaked the story to protect them. Ortega described treating 6 men who'd been tortured to the edge of death. And through it all, the senators listened. Some with skepticism. Some with anger. But most with something that looked a lot like shame. Then Jack Brennan took the stand. He limped to the witness chair, still recovering from 18 months of captivity, and told his story. The capture, the torture, the months of darkness and pain and hopelessness. And then the night he heard explosions, heard gunfire, heard an American voice shouting, "Marines, we're here to take you home." Senators, I had given up. We all had. We thought we'd been forgotten, that nobody cared, that we'd die in those cells and nobody would ever know. But then Colonel Garrett and his team came for us. They risked everything. One of them, Sergeant Morrison, died getting us out. He took bullets meant for us. He held on until we were safe, and then he let go. Jack's voice broke. He took a breath, continued. You want to court-martial these people? You want to punish them for doing what our government should have done 18 months ago? Then you court-martial me too, because if saving the lives of abandoned Marines is a crime, then we're all guilty. But Jack wasn't done. He pulled out a USB drive and held it up. And while we're talking about crimes, let's talk about Baghdad, about Staff Sergeant Nora Kael, about the CIA asset she supposedly killed, who was really a traitor selling American lives for profit, about how the CIA buried the truth and destroyed her career to protect their own corruption. He handed the drive to the committee chairman. That drive contains encrypted files I recovered from CIA servers during my unauthorized mission in Syria. Files that prove beyond any doubt that the target Sergeant Kael shot was not only dirty, but was actively working to get American hostages killed. Her shot saved 30 lives and stopped a traitor, and instead of getting a medal, she got buried at Fort Wraith and forgotten. The chairman took the drive, looked at it, looked at Nora. Then he did something unexpected. He stood up and saluted her. Sergeant Kael, on behalf of this committee and the United States Congress, I apologize. You did your duty, you saved American lives, and we failed you. That failure ends today. The hearing adjourned at 2200 hours. By midnight, the CIA deputy director, whose son had been the traitor in Baghdad, had resigned. By 0200, 3 senators who'd blocked the rescue mission authorization had issued public apologies. By dawn, the entire story had exploded across every news platform in America. And in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., Nora Kael sat on the edge of a bed and cried for the first time in 9 months. Not from sadness, from relief, from vindication, from the overwhelming weight of carrying a lie finally being lifted. Jack sat next to her, didn't say anything, just put his arm around her shoulders and let her cry. Because that's what Marines do, they carry each other, through the darkness, through the pain, through everything. After a while, she stopped crying, wiped her eyes, looked at him. What happens now? Now? Now we go home. Now we heal. Now we live the lives Morrison died to give us. And the court-martial? Jack smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen on his face in forever. There isn't going to be a court-martial. The president called the chairman an hour ago. Full pardons for everyone involved. Honorable discharge if we want it. Reinstatement to active duty if we don't. Plus medals, lots of medals. Apparently saving 6 Marines and exposing CIA corruption makes you pretty popular. Nora shook her head, laughed. It felt strange, good, like remembering how. What are you going to do? Me? I'm retiring. For real this time. Going to spend some time with my brother. with my family, figure out how to be a civilian again. You? She thought about it. About Fort Wraith, about the supply depot, about 9 months of being invisible, about 47 kills that had become 85, about the scope picture, about the trigger pull, about who she was and who she'd always been. I think I'm going to keep being a Marine. I think I'm going to keep doing what I'm good at, protecting people, saving lives, making the hard shots when nobody else can. Jack nodded, stood up, held out his hand. Then do me a favor. When you're out there, making those shots, taking those risks, remember something. You're not alone. You've got people who believe in you, who trust you, who know that when the moment comes, you'll do the right thing. She took his hand. He pulled her to her feet. And Nora, thank you for coming back for me, for not giving up, for being the best damn Marine I've ever known. Jack, you taught me everything I know. No, I taught you how to shoot. You taught yourself how to be a hero. 2 weeks later, Fort Wraith had a ceremony. The entire base assembled on the parade ground. 63 problem soldiers who'd been sent there to disappear, plus 6 rescued Marines who were finally going home, plus families, plus media, plus half the Marine Corps brass who'd flown in to witness history. Colonel Garrett stood at attention while a general pinned the Distinguished Service Cross to his chest. Hayes received the Silver Star. Tang received the Bronze Star with Valor Device. Ortega received the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, and Nora Kael received the Navy Cross, the second highest military decoration for extraordinary heroism during the rescue operation. But the ceremony everyone remembered wasn't about the living. It was about the dead. Morrison's casket sat on a platform draped in the American flag, surrounded by honor guard. A general spoke about redemption, about second chances, about how one man had found his courage in his darkest moment and used it to save others. And when they fired the 21-gun salute, when the notes of taps echoed across the mountains, when they folded that flag and presented it to Morrison's daughter, there wasn't a dry eye on the parade ground, because Morrison had been a drunk, a traitor, a broken man. But in the end, he'd been a Marine, and Marines take care of their own, even the broken ones, especially the broken ones. After the ceremony, Nora found herself standing alone on the North Ridge, the place where she'd set up her Overwatch position 2 weeks earlier, the place where she'd killed 38 men in 90 minutes, the place where everything had changed. The snow was melting, spring was coming to Montana, and down below, Fort Wraith looked different. Not like a graveyard anymore, more like a second chance. A place where broken people could put themselves back together and remember who they'd been before the world had tried to destroy them. Footsteps crunched in the snow behind her. She turned. Colonel Garrett stood there, wearing his dress blues, his new medal catching the sunlight. "Kael, I've got orders for you." "Sir?" He handed her a folder. She opened it. Transfer orders, not to another forgotten outpost, not to another desk job, to Dam Neck, Virginia, to the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, to the place where the best snipers in the military learn to become legends. They want you, Kael. JSOC wants you. They've seen what you can do. They know what you're capable of, and they want to give you the platform to use it. No more desks, no more inventory duty, just missions, real missions, the kind that save lives. Nora stared at the orders, at the future she'd thought was gone forever, at the second chance she didn't think she deserved. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just go be what you were always meant to be. Be the guardian, the protector, the one who makes the impossible shots and brings everyone home." Garrett held out his hand. She shook it. His grip was iron. "And Kael, thank you for everything, for believing, for following, for being brave when it mattered most. The Marines are lucky to have you. Don't ever let anyone tell you different." He walked away, left her standing on that ridge, holding transfer orders that represented everything she'd lost and found again. She looked down at Fort Wraith one last time, at the place where she'd been sent to die and instead learned how to live. Then she walked down the ridge toward her barracks, toward packing her gear, toward whatever came next. Because that's what Marines do. They move forward, they adapt, they overcome, they never quit. 3 months later, Nora Kael stood on a rooftop in a city she couldn't name, looking through a scope at a target she couldn't identify, waiting for orders she couldn't discuss. The wind was blowing. The sun was setting, And somewhere 700 meters away, a terrorist was planning an attack that would kill dozens of innocent people. Her radio crackled. A voice she didn't recognize, professional, calm, clinical. Ghost 7, you are cleared hot. Target is confirmed. Take the shot. Ghost 7. Her new call sign, her new identity, her new purpose. She took a breath, let it out slow. The way Jack had taught her, the way she'd practiced 10,000 times, the way she'd done it at Fort Wraith when it mattered most. The crosshairs settled on the target. Her finger moved to the trigger, and somewhere in her mind, she heard Morrison's voice from the truck that night, talking about wanting to die for something that mattered. This mattered. She pulled the trigger, the rifle kicked, the target dropped, mission accomplished. And 8,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., in a hearing room that had once judged her, a new photo was being added to the wall of heroes. Staff Sergeant Nora Kael, Navy Cross recipient. The woman who'd been destroyed for doing the right thing. The woman who'd saved 6 Marines. The woman who'd drawn a line in the snow and said, "This far and no further." The woman who'd proven that honor still mattered, that duty still mattered, that courage still mattered, that the old ways, the hard ways, the ways that demanded everything and promised nothing, those ways still worked. Because some lines you don't cross, some brothers you don't abandon, some truths are worth fighting for. And some people, the rare ones, the special ones, the ones who understand what it really means to serve, those people change the world one shot at a time. Nora Kael was one of those people, and her war was just beginning. But that's another story, for another time, for another mission that would push her to the edge and demand everything she had to give. For now, she was just a Marine, doing her job, making the hard shots, bringing everyone home, living up to the promise Morrison had died to protect. The promise Jack had kept alive through 18 months of torture. The promise Garrett had risked everything to honor. The promise that said, "We don't leave people behind, not ever, not for politics, not for convenience, not for anything. We are Marines, and that means something. It means everything." And as the sun set over a city she couldn't name, as her target lay dead 700 meters away, as another terrorist plot died before it could begin, Nora Kael understood something fundamental about herself and her place in the world. She'd been broken. She'd been buried. She'd been sent to the end of nowhere to disappear. But she hadn't disappeared. She'd become something else, something harder, something necessary, something the world needed even if it didn't always understand. She'd become the line in the snow, the place where evil stopped, the guardian standing watch while others slept. And she'd do it for as long as she had breath in her lungs and strength in her hands. Because that's what Marines do, that's what heroes do, that's what honor demands. Her radio crackled again. New orders, new target, new mission. She packed her gear, moved to the next position, and somewhere in the gathering darkness, another shot waited to be made. Another life waited to be saved. Another promise waited to be kept. And Nora Kael was ready. She'd always been ready. She always would be. Because some people are born to stand watch, to hold the line, to make the impossible shots when nobody else can. And once you understand that about yourself, once you accept it, once you embrace it, there's no going back. There's only forward. Into the darkness, into the fire, into whatever comes next. And she was okay with that. More than okay. She was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do, and if that meant living in the shadows, if that meant taking the shots nobody else could make, if that meant being the guardian angel that nobody ever saw, then so be it. She'd draw her line in the snow, and she'd hold it, no matter what. Always faithful, always ready, always watching.